You're going to die. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe in 50 years. But here's what's haunting you. In quiet moments when you're alone, in the pause between distractions, the feeling that you've never actually lived, that you've spent your entire existence trapped inside a conversation with yourself that never stops, a voice that judges, compares, regrets, worries, and you've been so hypnotized by this voice that you forgot something crucial. You are not the voice. You're the one listening. And that changes everything. Most people will live their entire lives without ever making this distinction. They'll die believing they were the narrator in their head, the one constantly commenting, analyzing, defending. They'll never discover the vast, silent awareness that was present before thought, during thought, and will remain after thought dissolves. They'll suffer unnecessarily, not because life is cruel, but because they identified with the wrong thing. Today, we simply invite ourselves to settle into the stillness beneath thought and recognize the awareness that never left. This teaching offers a quiet space to dissolve the false identity the mind has built and return to your natural state, the consciousness you've always been, hiding in plain sight. Eckhart Tolle spent years drowning in anxiety so severe that one night, in complete desperation, he heard himself think, "I cannot live with myself anymore." And in that phrase, he caught the absurdity. If I cannot live with myself, there must be two. Who is the I? Who is the self? In that split-second recognition, 30 years of psychological torment evaporated. He spent the next 2 years on park benches, absorbed in inexplicable peace, watching people rush past, still imprisoned in the mental torture he'd just escaped. What he discovered wasn't new, but he said it in a way the modern mind can finally hear. You are not your mind. Let that land. Imagine you've lived your entire life in a room covered with mirrors. Every surface reflects the same thing, your thoughts. From the moment you wake until sleep finally comes, you stare at these reflections. Worries, regrets, fantasies, the endless commentary about who you are and who you should be. You've been in this room so long, you forgot there's a door. You forgot there's anything beyond the mirrors. This is identification with thought, and it's the root of all psychological suffering. The thinking mind is brilliant, essential for navigating the world, solving problems, creating. But somewhere in evolution, the tool became the master. The mind convinced you it is you. And from that moment, peace became structurally impossible, because the mind lives in time, replaying the past, rehearsing the future, completely missing the only moment where life actually exists. Thought creates separation the way a knife cuts. It takes reality's seamless wholeness and fragments it. Me versus you, past versus future, success versus failure. Then it tells you you're on one side, threatened by the other, needing to protect yourself. This is how suffering is manufactured, not by life, but by the mind's interpretation of life. But there's another intelligence available, not thought-based, not conditioned. Ancient teachings call it Christ consciousness, Buddha nature. Neuroscientists recently discovered something striking. During deep meditation, the brain's default mode network, the part constantly thinking about me, goes completely silent. And from that silence, people report feeling more themselves than ever. as if the self they'd been defending was just noise, and underneath was something vast, peaceful, true. This is what you are, beneath thinking. Not a better thought, not positive affirmation, but awareness itself, the consciousness in which all thoughts appear and disappear like clouds in empty sky. Right now, notice, there's awareness. You're conscious of these words, perhaps sounds, sensations. But this awareness isn't narrating itself. It's not thinking I am aware. It's simply here, luminous, present. This is who you are, not the content, but consciousness itself. The voice says, I'm anxious. I'm not good enough. I need to figure this out. But who hears these statements? That awareness, silent, spacious, untroubled, that's your true nature. The fundamental confusion creating suffering. You mistake the weather for the sky. Anger arises. You say, I am angry. But watch closely. Anger comes. Anger goes. You, the awareness witnessing, remain unchanged. Anything that comes and goes cannot be you. You are the constant. Every act of violence, every prejudice begins here, believing the conceptual self, the story in your head, is real. When you see only mental labels about another person, you're not seeing a human being. You're seeing projected thoughts. And thoughts have no mercy, but pure attention heals separation. It reveals the obvious. We are one consciousness wearing different masks. The next evolutionary step isn't technological. It's waking from the trance of compulsive thinking, not thinking less, but identifying less. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the thinker. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. The moment you observe the mind, you've stepped outside it. The watcher and watched cannot be the same. And in that gap, that space between you and your thoughts, liberation lives. Let me show you. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Notice sounds around you. Don't label them. Just listen. Now notice the silence holding the sounds. Rest there. And notice the awareness knowing both sound and silence. Can you find it? Or is it simply here, obvious, prior to all experience? Stay for 3 breaths. This awareness, formless, timeless, this is what you are. Open your eyes. Did something shift? That shift is the gap. Every time you find it, you weaken the hypnosis. The ego survives on identification. It collects achievements, failures, resentments, opinions. It says, I am successful. I am wounded. I am better than them. On and on, building a psychological structure called me. But this structure is built on sand, always incomplete, always needing more validation, more proof. The ego lives in chronic lack, fear of losing what it has, desire for what it doesn't, never satisfied. Because the ego is fiction, and fictions require constant maintenance. The ego strengthens through opposition. It needs to be right, making others wrong. Nations do this. Religions do this. The collective ego says, we are good, they are evil. From this, every war, every dehumanization, your mind right now might be arguing with someone absent, rehearsing what you should have said, planning revenge or defense. Notice it. Don't judge, just see. The voice complains constantly. This shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't have done that. I deserve better. In this resistance, suffering multiplies, not because circumstances are bad, but because you're at war with reality. Some strengthen identity through victimhood. I've had it worse than anyone. The ego feeds on this. It would rather be a special victim than no one at all. What story are you telling yourself to maintain your separate self? Here's the truth. You don't have to believe your stories anymore. Picture this. You're in line at the pharmacy. The person ahead argues about their prescription. 10 minutes pass. Heat rises in your chest. Thoughts cascade. I don't have time. People are inconsiderate. This always happens to me. Now, who is aware of these thoughts? Who notices the heat, the judgments, that awareness? Vast, calm, uninvolved. That's what you actually are. In that moment, you have a choice, not to suppress irritation, but to recognize this irritation isn't you. It's a pattern. The moment you see it as pattern rather than my anger, space opens. Compulsion to react weakens. This is the practice, not 30 minutes on a cushion, but waking up inside your life, in the store, in traffic, in arguments, in nighttime loneliness. You are not your thoughts, emotions, perceptions, or story. You are the space in which all this appears. You are awareness itself. Awareness has no problems. Only mind has problems. Mind lives in perpetual incompleteness, always seeking the next solution. But awareness is already complete. It was complete before you were born, will be complete after this body returns to dust. When you discover this experientially, profound peace settles. Not the peace of perfect circumstances, but recognition that you are not separate from this moment. You are not a person inside life. You are life itself, temporarily appearing as a person. The compulsion to control dissolves. The need to be right relaxes. Desperate seeking stops. Not because you've given up, but because you found what you were looking for. And it was never in the future. Always here, disguised as this ordinary moment. Surrender doesn't mean defeat. It means accepting what is without mental commentary, saying it shouldn't be. When you stop arguing with reality, reality becomes acceptable, not because it's perfect, but because you're no longer creating a second layer of suffering through resistance. The Taoists called this Wu Wei, effortless action. Christians say, "Thy will be done." It's recognizing an intelligence operating far beyond the calculating mind. When you relax your grip, this intelligence moves through you. Let go, not of life, but of the mental stranglehold on life. In daily life, this becomes practical. Next time your partner triggers you, pause. Notice the trigger. Feel the sensation. Watch defensive thoughts forming. In that watching, you've created a gap. You're no longer unconsciously reacting. You're consciously responding, or perhaps not responding at all. This is spiritual maturity, not positive thinking, not suppressing negativity, but recognizing the difference between you and the movements of mind. Who is aware of awareness? This question has no answer in thought. You cannot turn yourself into an object of knowledge because you are the subject. The eye cannot see itself. Consciousness cannot know itself as an object. It can only be itself. Yet this not knowing is the deepest knowing. Rest here. You are already free. Freedom isn't something achieved. It's something recognized, like waking from a dream, realizing I was never actually trapped. It was just a dream. The voice will continue. Thoughts will come and go. Emotions will arise and pass. Life will remain imperfect, unpredictable. But you, the awareness knowing all this, you are untouched. You are the screen on which the movie plays. The screen is never burned by fire in the movie, never drowned by the flood. Can you feel this? Even faintly? That's enough. You don't need to master this. You just need to notice, again and again, the difference between the voice and the listener, between thought and awareness, between story and the space holding the story. Simple, but not easy. Obvious, but easily forgotten. Here's what I'm curious about. What's one thought you've been believing about yourself your whole life that, when you really look at it, might not actually be who you are? Share below if you feel called. Let's explore this together. Every time you wake from identification with thought, you make it easier for everyone to wake up. Consciousness recognizing itself in one human being is consciousness recognizing itself in all beings. We're not separate. We never were. So rest. Not as escape, but as return. Not as goal, but as recognition of what's already here, beneath the voice, prior to thought, silent, eternal. You, let this settle into your bones as lived truth. If even a sliver of peace touched you, return to this space, often, not seeking, just resting as what you are. This channel exists for exactly this, quiet reminders in the noise. If you want these contemplations to find you regularly, subscribe, not as obligation, but as invitation, a gentle bell in the midst of your week, calling you back to what you've always been. The pathless path continues. Until then, be the awareness you've always been, and notice you never left.